Good evening, everybody.
Hello.
And welcome to the 31st edition of PechaKucha Bermuda. Yes, a bit more exciting because 3 years has passed since last, we were together. Celebrating lots of good things in the community, and we're so happy to be here again. It's been 3 years. Still a bit rusty.
So I'm curious, how many of you have actually been to a PechaKucha presentation before? Can I guys see? Okay, so we got some veterans. Welcome back, you guys. It's so nice to have all of us here together. And these are our little stage hands right here. You can see them. So for those of you that haven't been to one of these,
Sorry about that.
So, I was saying, for those of you that haven't been to one of these before, there's a very unique format about this PechaKucha presentation. And what's the basis of it, Alba?
So it goes around the 20-20, right? So each presenter will have 20 slides, and each slide will run for 20 seconds automatically. So the whole presentation is going to be 6 minutes and 40 seconds. Hopefully it will be something interesting. If not, you can go to the bar and get a drink, and by the time that you come back, it will be over, and you have time for another one. But it's not going to be the case because they're all amazing. We see them rehearsing. And they're really, truly amazing and very inspirational. It's also pretty nerve-wracking, so I want you guys to give them all, your love and support when they go on here, because it takes quite a lot to present. Yeah?
It really does, and we're so grateful for all the people that have taken the time to put together these presentations over the past couple of weeks. One thing that's also important to note is that Bermuda is one of over 1,300 cities around the world that host these PechaKucha presentations. So it's really nice to be able to feature here in Bermuda.
Yeah, it's also, this year is the 20th anniversary of PechaKucha, which started 20 years ago in Tokyo. A group of architects started it as a way of sharing different ideas, with a supportive community, and it has evolved from Tokyo, from a little idea in Tokyo, has evolved into what is today, which is Stratton says 1,300 cities around the world. In Bermuda, it was introduced about 13 years ago by Aideen Ruttery and Nekorrah, who is today in the audience. Thank you so much for bringing it, and we try our very best just to keep it going. It's all volunteers. There's no profit in here. We just do it because we just love it so much, and we're always looking for volunteers. So if today you're inspired, just to help us to keep going, come and talk to us, at the intermission or during the break, and we would love to hear from you. And equally, if you feel inspired to share your passion, something that you love, come and talk to us as well. We're always looking for presenters.
Exactly. So you can sign up afterwards if you want to. But the other thing to consider is that you're going to have an opportunity to ask questions at the end of each presentation. You have 6 minutes and 40 seconds to give the presentation, and then you have 3 minutes and 20 seconds to answer any questions from the audience. So I want you to have the best questions coming out and really giving them to our presenters tonight. So think about that as they're going through. But I think that's all the housekeeping.
They didn't come to hear us talk.
I know, exactly. So we've got 6 people lined up. We've got people talking about everything from tourism, to turtles, to nature, to hiking, to making memories.
So shall we just receive our first presenter?
Yes.
Yes, so we're gonna give a big, warm round of applause to Clare Dominguez. She's talking about missing a person in Bermuda.
love story could revitalize the first industry ever established in Bermuda. To your right, Emma and Matt became engaged 2 weeks after this photo was taken. To your left, Josh, a man with a personal mission to leave every bathroom cleaner than how he found it. That's me in the center, their guide on an 18-day tour of Central America. Anyone could join, up to 16 people maximum, and they had their transport included in a mixture of public and private transport. Here's Josh in a chicken bus with a real chicken, and their accommodation was basic, such as this room in a family home. Here they are, coming up in the home of Irma, learning to dye fabric with anil. This is the plant that we call indigo. Irma is an inspirational single mother who established her business in a small town in El Salvador. Economic opportunity here is limited, with over a quarter of GDP supplied by remittances sent from abroad. This is out of order, so I'm going to skip. The majority of their activities were not included, and this left a trail of breadcrumbs in the palms of local hands. Josh here is being interviewed by English students on free time in a plaza in Leon, Nicaragua. Returning back to Irma, here I am with her in her backyard during the Indigo workshop, and I reached out to her in preparation for this talk to see what was the impact of this type of travel on her life, business, and community. She couldn't have been more appreciative of the people coming to her town, the economic support, their overall conduct, and how they uplifted the town. A 2008 statistic showed that only $5 of each $100 spent on travel stayed in the destination. In 2015, the United Nations released 17 Sustainable Development Goals, and Bermuda shares a unique perspective on life below water, clean water and sanitation, and clean energy, just to name a few. Our industry is dominated by cruises and luxury resorts. Last quarter, 1,800 tourists descended on Dockyard in just one day each week. We've seen Horseshoe Bay on days like this. A great separation occurs and nobody can or really wants to learn from each other. The resort stay is a great option if you just want to relax and unwind, but with the high price of entry and so many included amenities, it can become quite insular. Now tell me, do you recognize the brand behind this logo? What is it? Got it. A great option for independent travelers. However, with whom do you share your experience if your host is working 5 jobs just to get by, or maybe you never met them because you checked yourself in? 84% of visitors to our country arrive here and spend less than $300 during their stay. This is our largest growing market, and unfortunately it takes 7 cruise ship passengers to spend the same amount during their stay as just one person arriving on a plane. Is infrastructure and also increasing cruise ship numbers really a solution? We all have to mind the gap when it comes to a mutually enriching experience. We have to stay curious about the visitors from abroad, and hopefully they can learn to stay a little bit longer to experience Bermuda beyond our pink sand beaches, maybe into the 3rd lane and beyond. I don't know Chris. He came here a few weeks back and shared online about his trip. He's eating a fish sandwich from Art Mel's. The content that he shared was about history and culture, food, and he also shared tips on how to travel here on a budget. So there he is, and remember Josh, the guy with impeccable bathroom standards? We have to remember that people like them remind us that when you travel, you want to live your values abroad, that those values align with some of the values of the people in your destination, and that by you traveling and having a great time, there can be great economic, cultural, social, and environmental benefit. But in Bermuda, the high cost of our accommodation provides a barrier to many an interested explorer. We must find a solution that doesn't isolate individuals. So what follows are now 2 solutions that we could explore to have more Josh, more Matt, more Emma, and more Chris here in Bermuda. The first one, what if people could sign up for a group trip, meeting their fellow travelers here, and staying in accommodation in homes in the same parish? Here we have all the basic necessities and actually a few frills that you can't see on the curtains. And here we have another home. These are examples from homestays I did in Cuba, but we have a real sense of place associated with a stay here. Throw in a couple of activities, a form of transport, and maybe a coordinator who can help to provide connection between the traveler and the host, because the hosts, as I mentioned, are sometimes busy and can't provide those services, but they do want to rent a room. Now, we all recognize this place, and you have to acknowledge that there were a lot of things that went on for it to get to this state. But why should we let the rest of this site go to waste? Just the cabins pictured here are enough to host one group in the style that I've been describing. And what if that became a starting point whereby we could have a portion of the funds received from travelers go towards a sustainable waste management solution for the adjoining farm? There are so many other properties like that could become a host for a world-class and innovative glamping experience. Love, apart from our religious, philosophical, cultural, and all the other differences, love is the one language that we all speak. I see it come alive here when people make eye contact walking down the street, when they say hello to each other, and if people will hang around for long enough, this is one thing that Bermuda can share with the world. Here's Josh with Emma on her wedding day. Wasn't she engaged to Matt? What happened on that trip? Josh was invited to their wedding 18 months after they married, and Emma plans to return back to the destination, but this time as a family of 4. When people lose the tourist label and become a traveler, this is the type of bond that can form, and I'll be back again soon. Thank you.
I just want to tell you a little something that we didn't mention before, but Claire her presentation is even more special because up until yesterday she couldn't talk. Something happened this week and she completely lost her voice. She left me a voice note and that sounded really, really bad. So for the last 2 days she's been in a completely and strict, mute mode, and she made it for today. So can I ask for an extra round of applause for Claire? Who has a question for Claire? Any questions? Yes, the lovely lady here in the third row.
Hi, so I would love to hear a bit more about the difference between the label tourist and traveler. What does that mean to you?
Excellent question, thank you. Tourism, I think, is a word that has nowadays a very negative connotation of some exploitation or bias, and one side wins and the other loses, and maybe is not so equal, and also is kind of temporary. So you might be a tourist, you go to a place once and then you never think of it again, and there's not a real connection to the people or place as such. So traveler is more of, I suppose, a lifestyle or an approach to moving around the globe, whereby you're actually constantly seeking connection, that human connection, that it doesn't matter if you're in Paris, London, or anywhere, you're looking human to human. What can I learn from you and what could I teach you? And I think travel is one of those things that is the great leveler, where you realize we are really so much the same in so many ways, and a lot of problems come about when we focus on differences rather than similarities.
Oh, thank you.
Come on, guys, give another question. Alba?
Yeah, right there.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Wonderful presentation. Thank you very much. How do you think we can attract more travelers to Bermuda? What does the Bermuda Tourism Authority, what can they do to help this?
Thanks, Nikki. I appreciate your support too. I think it's a product issue over a marketing issue at this point in time. This type of product doesn't exist in the way that I've described here, and so the BTA can't market it. It came on the last slide. contribute to the team at Ethos, and we are working to develop, for example, things like this. And the BTA have shown their support and have some programs where they provide support to upcoming projects. So I don't know if I can stand here and tell you that anything that the BTA could do differently. I don't have authority on that. And I think that it's a way of combining the existing services in an innovative way and making use of the facilities we already have. Because the part about not creating more infrastructure, that's one thing that does appear in the National Tourism Plan of the BTA, and that's one thing just sort of on a personal level. And like, are we really utilizing what is already constructed to its fullest capacity? We're a small island and like 1,800 people in a day. You can't really hold much more than that. There's a capacity problem, so trying to spread them out into smaller groups and longer stays might be an option.
One more question.
Hi. How do you think we can engage the cruise ship passenger, the cruise ship tourists, in a different way? They're always so excited to come and see, and they want to go back to the cruise for the all you can eat and the drink and everything else. And that's lovely. I love seeing them here. I want them to have a good time. Maybe there's something different we could do.
That's a tricky question, I'll have to say, because the time is so limited, and I think what the talk I'm proposing is to let cruise ships be and do what they're doing. It's a big, solid, established industry, and I'd rather not push against the flow of water in that direction. So I think just providing alternatives so that people may not even book onto a cruise. They might go, oh, I want to go to Bermuda and look at this thing that's available here. It takes the same amount of time. I can't go to as many countries, but it costs more or less the same. So maybe that would be a way of involving cruise ship visitors, is to not have them book the cruise.
One more? No?
Okay.
One more.
My question is about, do you connect with prospective tourists via social media? Because I'm not sure if you're on the Reddit community or the Bermuda subreddit, but every day on the Bermuda subreddit, there are people asking questions like, hey, I'm planning to come to Bermuda. What should I do when I'm there? So I think that it's an amazing place to connect with potential tourists. I'm wondering, what's your thoughts on that, using social media connect with visitors who want to be travelers as opposed to tourists?
Yeah, thank you. I actually had an idea during the preparation of this talk that perhaps we could open a Facebook group that would have strict requirements. So the chicken loving group where you have to absolutely be a diehard chicken lover to go into it. Anyone? Yeah. So I had thought of perhaps a new Facebook group where you had to be an independent traveler or couple, no more than say 3 or 4 people, and then a few other conditions that would kind of be a selection panel for people to enter, and in that space they could ask questions. But what I hadn't considered is the platform. I'll say I don't know much about Reddit. That's something that I will research, and I appreciate you mentioning it. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Claire. Our next presenter is ready. See her on the sidelines. Gaelle is super passionate about conservation, and she also has a soft spot for turtles. So today she's going to tell us all about the turtles and more. So yeah, I leave you with Gaelle Roth.
Let's dive in. But before we talk about any type of recipe,
Sorry.
here we go. Before we talk about any type of recipe, I want you to imagine. I would like you to imagine you're in Bermuda, you're on the beach. It's early 1600s, and in front of you the sand starts moving. Out emerges this baby turtle. Not just one, but about 100 of them all emerge all together. And you see them frantically crawling the beach. They want to reach the water as fast as possible. As they're passing the beach, what they do is they want to avoid any predators that might be waiting for them. You see it enter the water, and you see it disappear. You will not see this baby turtle again for at least 5-6 years, because it will spend the first few years in the open ocean. I am not making this up. Up until the 1600s, Bermuda had a massive breeding population. These big turtles were a very easy food source. They became exploited, overexploited. So much so that by 1620, Bermuda passed the very first conservation law in the world, protecting our small turtles under 18 inches. We had no idea what to or how to protect these, and so we failed protecting our breeding population. So by 1870, we had completely wiped out our breeding population. To have effective conservation, to be able to turn a turtle from soup to superstar, we need to understand its full cycle. So it took until 1973 to fully protect all sizes, all turtles. And only just recently were we able to complete this life cycle. The turtles we see around us now arrive as a toddler age, and they stay until they're teenagers. So they spend about 15 years in our waters until they're ready to leave, and they will never come back again. It takes a turtle about 35 years to complete the cycle. And did you know that it's the temperature of the sand that will determine the sex of the turtle? So mid-incubation, warmer temperatures will produce females. Hot chicks, cool dudes. However, I'll leave you thinking about how climate change might change that ratio. So, we know the life cycle of a turtle. It's easy to see that each stage of that cycle comes with its threats and challenges. Most of them human impacts. Very little are natural causes. Even so that only 1 egg out of 100 will make it to adulthood. When they arrive in Bermuda, turtles are herbivores and they feed on seagrass. Seagrass is not just important to turtles, it stocks carbon dioxide, produces oxygen, stabilizes the sediment, so it protects Bermuda from erosion, and it's a very important habitat for juvenile fish and many others. The biggest threat, however, to turtles in Bermuda is our decline of seagrass. So globally, in the last 2 decades, seagrass has been disappearing. And again, human causes are likely the main cause of that. Boats, anchors, moorings, any disruption will disrupt this ecosystem and destroy it. And so you can imagine if a turtle migrates long distances, finally arrives here in Bermuda, it is looking for that food source. It cannot be healthy if it cannot find a good food source. So this turtle was captured and released by the Bermuda Turtle Project, the BTP. It's about a dinner plate-sized turtle, just arrived. And so the Bermuda Turtle Project is, I'm very proud to be part of that, is designed to exchange knowledge and experiences and educate people that come from countries that play a vital role in that life cycle of a turtle. The turtles you see here may come from Florida, Costa Rica, Mexico, Cuba, others islands, even as far as Guinea-Bissau in Africa, so quite a mix. And so the Bermuda Turtle Project, I'm going to call it BTP, we've been doing this for over 50 years. We collaborate with the government, we have a special permit. Once we have our hands on these, we want to collect as much data as possible. So we measure them, we weigh them, we identify them, so we place a tag on their flipper, so they have a unique number. We even microchip them, you'll see that in the next one. And we collect as much data as we can. We also take a blood sample, and with that blood sample, we can see that if it's male or female, we can see genetic background, so to know where it's coming from. We can do a health assessment, we can look at its diet, and we can see how it uses its habitat. So what have we seen in those last 50 years? Our turtles in Bermuda are smaller, they're not growing as much anymore, they have a poor body condition. And sadly, in the last 2 years of the BTP, we've got an all-time low numbers of turtles, so they're declining. We also see a change in behavior. Previously, if you would capture the same turtle more than once, we would capture it in the exact same location, which was quite amazing. They would stick to one location. However, now, these dotted lines kind of represent how they're roaming around the Bermuda platform. They're hungry, and they're looking for food. There is a rising opinion in Bermuda that actually the conservation of turtles might be the main cause of seagrass decline. So I'm here today to remind you that sea turtles have lived on this planet for over 150 million years, a very long time, always been in balance with seagrass. And the numbers that we see now are just a fraction of what it used to be. So now, more than ever, it's really important to understand what that fragile relationship is between turtle and seagrass. And really, turtles are the biggest victim of seagrass decline, as you can imagine. So the Bermuda Turtle Project is really dedicated to continue to follow any losses, any recoveries, and any changes. And again, because a turtle has been around the planet for such a long time, it is kind of a modernized dinosaur. It can teach us how it has been resilient. It has survived for such a long time. It can adapt to changing environments. And so the BTP again wants to know how will they adapt yet again to a changing environment because of human impact. Blaming turtles for seagrass decline is just too simplistic to me. Having turtle as a soup ingredient will not save the seagrass. We're still learning so much how to do proper conservation. But what I do know is that a big part of it is human impact and how we can all do our part to have proper conservation. So I would like to invite you all to join me in the Bermuda Turtle Project to really be part of a successful recipe for effective conservation. Only then can the turtles be superstars again, as I think they are. Funny enough, today is World Oceans Day, so I want to wish everyone a very happy World Ocean Day. Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions? Oh, we got a bunch.
That was fascinating and passionate. Thank you so much. I just wanted to ask, are turtles actually breeding in Bermuda at the moment?
They are not. So by 1870, we don't have any proof that they were breeding here. So interestingly, in 2015, we did have a green turtle come into St. George's and have a nest. Not sure what the deal with that was. It could have been coincidence that she still had eggs and in her body, and she came across Bermuda and thought, I'm going to lay them here. I can talk about a relocation project that we had here in the 70s in Bermuda, where we took sea turtle eggs from Costa Rica and brought them here and put them in our beaches here. That was about a good time ago, so that could make sense that they're adult now, and maybe are they coming back? However, because we didn't understand everything, our beaches might have been just too cold, and they might have been just all males coming out of those eggs. So no, short answer is no breeding turtles here.
I have a question. First of all, thanks for your dedication and what you're doing. I do have a question. Is there other food sources that they can consume other than seagrass that we can potentially assist in?
That's an excellent question too. So yes, what we have seen is there a change in behavior and a change in diet. So they've been grazing on algae now as well. So turtle grass is their favorite grass. We have quite a few other seagrass species here, Syringodium and Thalassian, so we see them eating on that too. They are changing to sea algae. That's quite an adaptation, and it will not give them the nutrients that they need. And then we've had some observations of actually turtles now coming to public docks and eating the fish wrecks. So again, we don't know what that will do to a herbivore. Green turtles will eat jellyfish, but usually in the open ocean. So it's really interesting now for us to see like how will they adapt and what will they do, and can they have a proper growth rate on just sea algae? Because if their growth rate stops or slows down, that means it takes them even more than 35 years to become an adult. So everything slows down, and so that will have a number of effects on the whole life cycle.
My question is, can we propagate and grow the seagrass?
I wish. Yes. So lots of research is being done in that. Seagrass is not an easy plant. It is a flowering plant, but just underwater, so same as your lawn. So if you throw out an anchor out and it disrupts the seagrass and it makes a divot, that's enough for the roots to stop kind of propagating. So seagrass can either reproduce by its root system or proper flowering. So any disruption will destroy it, and so it's very sensitive. Now, your part in that. Yes.
Hi there. Has there been any talk within the community about not allowing boaters using fixed mooring balls?
So yes, unfortunately a lot of people don't know that it's illegal to throw your anchor in seagrass. So seagrass beds are fully protected. And I think there's not enough advertising for that to know that you shouldn't. And then moorings, yes, a lot of people might not work for massive big boats, but yes, they are hurricane proof and they can be used. The one challenge is if you are the first one to start a tension mooring within a bay where there's already other boats, everybody should change, because if your boat is not moving around and all the others are, but I think that's the way forward. That's the only way.
Outside of Bailey's Bay, like where we live, there's these cages, right,
yes.
where there's all this seagrass. So what is that doing? Because in some ways it's like protecting the seagrass, but then they can't get to the seagrass, and then if you move the cage, surely that would disrupt what you just said about like any anchor touching it.
So yeah, the seagrass cages are there to protect it from any boats, any moorings, any turtles as well. And the seagrass cages are here to stay. I don't know if there's enough. It's Bermuda government that is looking into that and making sure and doing everything they can to make sure it survives. Obviously, I am pro seagrass cages, because if we don't have seagrass, we have no turtles, and we have to start somewhere. So the hope is that from those seagrass cages, it will spread out, so that we have a protected cage or few, and that around it, as it's spreading out, that will be open to herbivores.
Sorry, how long does the seagrass take to grow? Like,
long.
Yeah,
it depends on the species, and it is not the fastest growing plant. So again, and you have to look at your sediment, you have to look at bigger storms. It has to kind of have quite a stable environment to start with, to then be able to be strong enough for all the environmental challenges.
Thank you.
Oh, right. I was really enlightened by that, so thank you. Can we get another round of applause for her? We got a good lineup tonight. So next.
Yeah, here we are. The interesting thing about Kilimanjaro is that when you're up there, you get a real sense of the height, because it's actually the tallest freestanding mountain in the world. That means that when you're up there, there's no mountains around you, and you can actually see down to the city lights below. But let's rewind. Kilimanjaro is a 2.5 million year old volcano. There's an 11,000-year-old glacier on top, which is pretty much eroding every day, so there's not that much left. It's 19,300 feet high, so it's the tallest peak on the African continent. The air up there is very thin and it's very cold. Kilimanjaro is located in the beautiful country of Tanzania. The people were incredible, proud, welcoming, and really full of energy. The Tanzanians struggled to make ends meet, and so our team worked their absolute asses off to get us up and down that mountain safely. There were 21 porters and 3 guides, and only 6 of us actually hiking. So it sounds like a lot, but it was definitely necessary. It's an 8-day hike through, starting in tropical conditions, 5 ecological zones. The first one is tropical. It's an 8-day hike, but by the end of it, you're up in the Arctic. At the beginning, you see chameleons and that sort of thing, but at the top, the oxygen is actually half of what it is here in Bermuda. As the days pass, the mountain comes closer into view, and it doesn't seem so scary at first. Hiking is long. You hike between 6 and 8 hours a day, and you end up doing about 70 kilometers from start to finish. And the 8-day hike is nice, which we did, because it actually gives you time to acclimatize as you go up. Here's my wife, Amy. She's doing all our packing at the hotel beforehand. You need layers, shells, thermals, toiletries, camping gear, lots of snacks, sleeping bags, hats, gloves, and poles. Here's Amy at her hotel. She's definitely doing all the good work for us, because I never did much of it. No, that's not true. Camp is a sparse and pretty minimal affair. This is our dining tent with our hikers in it. How the staff managed to get all of us up the mountain, make 3 meals a day over 8 days is completely beyond me. Here the staff as well, the porters, what they do is they carry a lot of weight on their head, and they will take down the camp after you leave in the morning, and then they will run ahead throughout the day and have it all set up by the time you're there in the evening. Again, it's a brutal job, spending all their time up there on the mountain, but that is how they support their families. The camps are sparse, and the mornings are cold, so it's really difficult pulling yourself out of that nice warm sleeping bag in the morning to get into the cold mountain air. but it's nice that the porters will bring you coffee or tea in the morning when they wake you up in your tent. The camping areas were at the same time desolate, but fabulous. Speaking about fabulous, here's my wife, Amy. This was all her idea. Amy grew up climbing Colorado's 14ers, or mountains in Colorado over 14,000 feet. But bear in mind, Kilimanjaro is over a mile higher than Colorado's highest mountain, so this was new territory for her. This is Mike, Amy's dad. Mike has always wanted to climb Kilimanjaro, but he's 65 and never quite pulled the trigger. So Amy one day just decided to book it and then tell him that she booked it and he had no choice. Mike is actually visiting Bermuda today, this weekend, right up here. Day 3 of our hike, and it's my birthday. It's also the lead guide's, Kim's birthday. We're both turning 38. We're at about 11,000 feet, and unbeknownst to me, the lovely porters decide to bring me a cake with champagne, and I can't believe it. It was quite an experience. And I'm on top of the world that night. So I had smuggled in a bottle of brandy, Tanzanian brandy, to celebrate my birthday properly. And in our daily briefing that night, I got cocky and reported my condition as 100%, which is very ominous. But the mountain had other plans. I came down with an absolutely horrendous flu that night, which lasted for 4 days. The nights were already freezing cold, but I had an absolutely awful fever, and I was even colder, and I just could not sleep. I even hatched a plan one night while I was completely feverish to call in the helicopter and just get me out of there. My face there says it all. But I persevered, and I lived off ibuprofen for days, and got over it after a few days. But from the middle of the hike onwards, we all started experiencing different sort of ailments, lack of sleep, coughs, digestive issues caused by the altitude. Our evening assessments started in the 90s, but slowly crept down into the 70s. But Kilimanjaro isn't just a mountain, it's all about the people. We were paired with 3 lovely Australians who were in their early 20s. In the middle, you can see Vicky, and on her left are the 2 Adams. You also can see our 2 guides on the sides, Sule and Kim. Now, we spent a lot of time with these lovely people, and we really got to know them. And we learned how Vicky and Adam were actually climbing in honor of their parents, Vicky's dad and Adam's mom, who they'd lost to cancer. So in a lot of ways, this was a somber affair for them. Adam's mom having climbed Mount Kenya and Mount Kilimanjaro when she was his age, so he was following in her footsteps. We were up at midnight on the 7th day for our 8-hour summit hike. It was a full moon, and as the sun rose over Mount Meru in the distance, I had plenty of time to think. I thought about Adam's mom and Vicky's dad. I thought about how we were all struggling up, including Mike, who by this point was really having difficulties getting up the mountain. By the time we summited, things had sort of changed in my mind, and I decided to gather a group and speak about what was going through my head. Adam and Vicky's parents, and what they would have thought of, or what they would be doing today if they were alive. Mike said that Adam and Vicky's parents would be proud. As a surprise, I had 3 medals made for me and Amy and Mike, which here's one. And I had actually no idea that we would meet such lovely partners who were also climbing. But I had also made 3 plaques, unbeknownst to anybody else, just in case. And I ended up, I didn't know we would form such a close bond. And so I gave those plaques to our new friends. And in the end, Kilimanjaro was more than just a mountain. It was, for all of us at that moment, it represented life's struggles and the beauty that we all face in climbing our own personal mountains. Thank you.
So I'm sure that you all have lots of interesting questions for Neil. So, do I see your hands? Really? Okay, that's better. That's better. Let me just. Yeah.
Really?
So, how difficult is it?
Oh, good question.
Yeah, it was much more difficult than I expected. I thought, I actually was joining Amy and Mike on their father-daughter trip, and I thought, whatever, you don't need to be that fit. It's just 8 days of hiking. But that altitude and that being up that high, things are weird up there. You end up looking down at the lights way below, and it's like you're in an airplane, kind of that sort of height, and you're sort of thinking, what am I doing up here? And the breathing is very difficult, and all the ailments that get you. Like, none of us got through without some sort of issue, and so it was hard. I'm glad I did it, but I would never do it again.
Hi, Neil. Good job.
Thank you.
My question is, what was one of your lowest points, and what was the thought that went through your head, and how did you overcome
it? I think the lowest point was 100% in the middle of a feverish kind of dream between the half state of sleeping and not sleeping, and I was serious at that moment where I wanted to get a helicopter and leave, because you can actually call in a helicopter if you need to. And so that was a very low point. I think, once I was doing the summit push, as I was saying, I think things start to change in your mind, and you start thinking about life struggles and your family, and I was thinking about the people we were with who were having issues, and how it isn't really that bad compared to some of the struggles we go through. So Kilimanjaro ends up becoming a little bit of a microcosm for broader struggles that we all have. And another thing that I forgot to mention, which in all the papers and the timing, because it's so quick, is that my parents also had a 3-year-old who passed away from cancer just months before I was born. So I was thinking about that and their struggle, and you kind of end up you have a lot of time to think. So I think that pulls you through and gives you energy and confidence as you go, despite the physical issues you're having.
I'm quite interested about the porters and the guides that you had. You went up once and would never go up again. So what is the frequency of them ascending that mountain for visitors who may not come back?
So that is a very good question, and I actually grappled with making this whole PechaKucha talk about the porters themselves, and I think that they are, absolutely the unsung heroes of the entire endeavor. And so I think we spoke to them a lot, and we became quite, close with them, and they explained a lot about how they run their, the mountain and how often they're up, and we had a million questions. And anyway, I think that on the off season, when is the off season? I think it's in the summer here. Oh, April through June. Thank you, Mike. April through June is very quiet for them, and unfortunately they do not have income during that point. And so they really have to do as many hikes as they can during the on season. And I think maybe they're up once every 10 days, but each hike is about eight days. So I think they try and go up pretty often, and it's absolutely incredible. I think they maybe earned $6 or $8 a day or something doing it. You really have to tip them well, which we were more than happy to do. And so it's difficult, and there's no signal up there for phones either, so they're not talking to their families, and it's definitely a very brutal job for them.
So how did you get down?
Fast, very fast. I think you spend around 20-30 minutes up at the summit doing photos and looking around and giving dumb speeches, but then they tell you just have to get down very fast, and so you end up kind of tumbling over yourself to get off the mountain. And I think we summit on the 6th day, and it then takes 2 days to get down. So 6 days up, 2 down. One of our guys, one of the Adams, had to be kind of helped off the mountain with 2 of the porters. So it's difficult getting down. You're absolutely dead by that point, but you're positive, and you have a lot of energy after finally finishing the summit. So.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can read the slide right here. this is what we're going to do for the next 15 minutes. The one catch is there's one bartender here tonight, so it might be a little bit longer than 15 minutes, but we're going to try to get back in here at 9:15. So thanks again, everyone. We got 3 more presenters lined up. Oh, and another thing. So we don't raise money for this. We don't charge ticket price for this, but any donations are welcomed. I think one thing that we want to buy is a roaming mic, for example. So if you're thinking of a donation to support that, that would be super helpful. And we've got a little baggie up here, so just throw it into the baggie. We trust you. Thanks, everyone. See you in a bit. Hit it, Macon.
Claren's my mother. You work with her. Claren. What's her last name? Rayner. Yes. That's my mother. Okay, very good. All right, thank you. Yes.
And it's going to do You're gonna find out. We can have a bath and a bathtub. There's nothing you can do around. Okay. I hear I've been stuck country. No. That's not the plan.
Did everyone get a beer or a drink or have a chat? Yeah? Did anyone introduce themselves to someone new, perhaps? Yeah? We find that this is a really good way to engage ourselves in the community, and it's always awesome to hear and meet different people in these sort of spaces. So, yeah, thank you again to everyone for coming out tonight. It's really great to see all of you, and it's really nice to have this back. We're planning to do this in October. The next one, so we're going to try to do it twice a year now. We used to do it 4 times a year, but it's a lot of work. But all that being said, we're still looking for presenters.
Yeah, I was thinking I hope that by now you're all being inspired, and that hopefully you're all thinking in your head, what would I present about? Are you all thinking about that?
Has anyone thought of one topic? Yeah?
Yes.
Hannah, what's your one going to be?
I want to talk about Bunnies versus cats.
Bunnies versus cats. Okay, guys, you can come back for that one in October.
So I wanna take that seed that we're planting today. I want you to water it, and then I want you to email us and
PechaKuchaBermuda@gmail.com.
Yeah. So
Shameless plug.
we are so happy to be here with you guys. But we still have 3 more amazing presenters that put a lot of work, and we're just gonna go for it. So our next presenter is gonna be talking about her own journey. We hope that you enjoy it. It's very inspiring. So can I hear a big round of applause for Akilah?
Thank you for the warm welcome. I have this very personal presentation, but still was for some reason kind of nervous about sharing it. John, you start. Harry Styles, Martha Stewart, and Lori Harvey. What do these 3 have in common? Yeah. So what is it? All 3 of them have waxed poetic about what Pilates has done in their lives the last few months. And my purpose this evening is I want to share my story with you and what Pilates has done in my life, and then also hopefully you'll consider how the empowering benefits of it might have a positive impact on your own. So we can't talk about Pilates without actually thinking about what it is. So what is Pilates, or really who is Joseph Pilates? He was an actual man. He was German. He was born in 1883, and he, as you can see, is almost 100 years old on the right side and is ripped, has a very strong core. And so he, via London, he emigrated to New York, and that's where he set up a studio that was called Contrology, the art of control. That's one of the major principles. It's like control, concentration, breath connected to movement. And he had been a sickly child, and his own transformation story is that he became, like, as you can see, a very strong, fit, able man. And he had a very diverse clientele in New York, but the clientele that actually made Pilates what it is today as far as a global exercise program is the dancers that were his clients, because they had fans, they had patrons, and the patrons would want to know, oh, how did you heal that ankle injury that had set you out for a few months? And then that's how it started to grow. Pilates actually predates physiotherapy as a discipline. So, insurance covers that as a support for recovering from injuries and surgeries and things like that. But before physiotherapy was even a thing, Joseph Pilates was doing his thing on people in New York. Depending on who you speak to, there are 4, 5, or 6 elders or proteges of Joseph Pilates who are the individuals that created their own studios and practice spaces, which is how all of what you think of as Pilates became today. One of those people is Romana Krasnowska, so we'll come back to her a bit later, but we're gonna fast forward to 2001. This is actually 2005, but next to me is Paige. Her mom's actually here. Hi, Denise. And I remember her talking to one of our teachers, Greta O'Kelly-Lynch, saying how Mrs. O'Kelly-Lynch's back injury, we all saw her one day fall down the steps and she just had recurring issues with it, but Pilates had helped her. So I came away from Pilates for a while due to reasons of access. There was not a place close to my London flat. I didn't really have a place here to go to, but I dove right into yoga, and that was a huge part of my mental health when I was a practicing lawyer here in Bermuda for 7 years. But in 2018, I was sidelined because I had a pretty major physical injury that required open abdominal surgery. So if you don't know, that means they cut through your abs. So the recovery period was 8 weeks, and it's inactive recovery. So for someone that practices yoga every day, that had a huge toll on my mental health. But the doctors were very impressed with how quickly I recovered. And I just remember thinking that all I do is yoga. If I actually worked my core, how strong could I be? And also I wanted to get back to my yoga practice so I could feel fine. So I researched what was available in Bermuda for Pilates, because I hadn't done that in a number of years. And I've also seen some people that I know from Lucky Elephant, like Charlotte and Shabnam, and I even see Elaine. But this is Lucky Elephant's, well, the now defunct Lucky Elephant, but this is the tower studio that they had. And Via Walker, she's still a teacher now at BDA Pilates, so check her out. She was teaching classes here, and I loved it so much that I decided to invest in private sessions. I went somewhere that I made a bad decision. I went to like the cheapest place I could find. I regret that. We can talk about that another time. But a friend joined me and she was like, no, you need to go see Sophia Cannoneer. That's her studio in Devonshire. She's previously been on Victoria Street, South Shore, and Warwick. And that's where like my intense knowledge started. And then I decided that in addition to the private trio that I was doing, I stopped being cheap and I invested in private sessions for myself in addition to the ones I did with my two friends who included Paige, now Eversley. So it was an important time in my life because I came to this practice for the reason of wanting recovery, but then I liked it so much that I decided to embark on a classical apprenticeship. So not like the teacher trainings that are available now where you like pay a few grand and you just get your certificate. It's like hardcore, you're working with a master instructor. There's Sophia who has 37 years teaching experience, and she was taught by Romana, who is one of the proteges of Joseph Pilates. Then come 2021, I finally was empowered to do the thing that I really wanted to do, which was leave the very boring to me practice of law and set out on my own teaching. At that time, it's yoga and Pilates, now it's just Pilates. But I don't think I would have been able to do it if it hadn't have been for my Pilates journey. The very interesting thing is that when I first said that I was teaching, immediately people came to me for instruction. I think part of it was that all along my journey, I was sharing images and stories on Instagram, so people knew what it was. It wasn't like I suddenly said, oh, this is what's happening. So I'm really proud of that because that means that today, 2023, I'm making a living in Bermuda, doing what I like, and then every single day I get to see people. Like it's a secondary experience or secondhand experience, but I get to see people's own like transformation stories and how they can feel empowered in their own bodies. The really ironic thing for me is that I always thought I'd be doing this, like just like yoga sessions on the beach, because that used to be my jam and all that I wanted to do. So it's ironic that yoga brought me to Pilates and having a teaching practice in Pilates. And the main thing that I want you all to consider for your own lives is that we have transitions of all kinds at different stages, big or small. And I think that if you are feeling strong within yourself, it will help you to feel like you can handle whatever's thrown at you externally and out there in the world. Thanks.
Thanks, Akilah, actually. So I think that Akilah is a really good example of what happened when you invest in yourself and you believe your dreams. So let's hear for those questions. Okay, 1 second.
Thanks for sharing that journey. It was wonderful to hear what you've said. I did Pilates as a recovery thing for an accident that I had, and I'm curious to know, because it was some time ago, has insurance now sort of accepted it as something that can be used as part of insurance coverage, or?
Not in Bermuda.
Yeah.
I know of a few other places in the world where that happens.
Yeah.
What is nice in Bermuda, at least for instructors, is that a lot of employers in our major industry of insurance, they support their employees' like wellness pursuits. So a lot of people get their practice and their instruction comped, but it's not necessarily accessible to the masses as far as insurance or like subsidies and things like that.
I couldn't understand why, because they'll get physiotherapy coverage, but not this, and I just...
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's all pretty political and like what comes from an academic background versus like a man that studied firsthand all kinds of movement and then decided that he wanted to create a system. So I think it's like our world's present reliance on formal education in terms of like book learning as opposed to how else you can have knowledge.
Would you recommend Pilates as I guess a complementary modality to like weight training?
Yes. So I didn't really get into it because there's so much that I could stand up here and talk to you about Pilates. But for mobility and flexibility, it's perfect because a lot of times for weight training, you're working your muscles in like a concentric state, so when they're shortened. But Pilates is when your muscles are lengthened, you're working them, so it helps you to be strong in all states. My example was once there was this cube thing that was up high, and I had to kind of get it down, but it's really heavy. But I wouldn't have been able to do that if my muscles weren't strong, being lengthened. And I just, was getting something off of your, say, kitchen counter. You might be unstable just getting one little thing, but like large things, you can be on your tiptoes and guide it down with care. So, yeah.
I've always been inspired by your strength, but my question is, no, it's Shabnam.
Oh, Shabnam. I can't see, sorry.
I do. What does 2024, 2025 have for Akilah's Pilates practice?
Good question. So I presently teach privates out of the studio that I trained at. So it's not in Hamilton. I'm limited because it's an open space. It's because Sophia also, she's kind of a movement genius, so she teaches other disciplines in a big open loft space, and it cuts out afternoon hours. But I'm making a move in July to somewhere else that I can't say yet because we haven't signed up the dotted line. But big picture, I want to create a space in Bermuda that's like a wellness destination, and not just in the sense of a spa, but in terms of different movement modalities being supported with things like a cafe, things like having lectures and similar types of events like PechaKucha in the space. So kind of more wholeness than wellness, if that makes sense. So big picture, and maybe, I don't know, a psychic said that's in my 2-year future, so watch this space.
Hi, Akilah. Thank you for your presentation. I was wondering, I know that you took the fantastic step of leaving your law practice and becoming a Pilates instructor. I wanted to know, was that difficult, and how did you find the inspiration to do that, and what are some of the pros and cons?
Yes, it was very difficult. I'm saying that because I think sometimes we think of something we want, and then the fact of the difficulty sometimes makes us shy away. Bouts of depression, because I knew it was something I didn't want to do, but was kind of forcing for a while. But I think I knew that if I could make myself stronger physically, that I could overcome things that would come up that were new externally. I think I just kind of suddenly felt like I could do it. And then even when I was pausing, I think the universe, I'll tell that story maybe at a different PechaKucha. I had a date in mind that I was going to leave, and then 4 days before that, something happened that kind of made it happen in a more beautiful way. So it was scary, it was hard. I didn't teach right away because I thought I would stop working as a lawyer and then the next day teach. But it was months of just kind of sitting there being what is this? And I had imposter syndrome with teaching. I never had that with law. And I think it was partly because I didn't care. I was just doing it. But because I really cared, I had all this fear around teaching. So I had to battle with that at 34, whereas some people encounter that in their first career. But I was just in my first career doing it.
Thank you so much.
It's working. Have you guys ever wondered what the answers to life's problems are?
Yeah.
Our next presenter, Nekorrah, is going to talk to us about that. So let's give it up for Nekorrah.
So when I was younger, I was one of the most avid lovers of nature you could find among my peers. As a matter of fact, I actually joined Nonsuch Island in 2016. I still have the necklace with me right now. I played around, I went out into nature, I went swimming like every other kid does, but I didn't really like the rain, which has changed now. But I really thought that to understand nature, I could take photos or learn in science. I used to want to be a National Geographic photographer. Most of the photos you'll find in this presentation were taken by me, as a matter of fact. I thought that learning the science side, dissecting every single thing that I could, really would bring me closer to nature and put me into it, but oh, how wrong I was. And I learned how wrong I was when I went to an Everglades trip with the Nature Club at NSU. NSU is a college that I went to in Fort Lauderdale, and Nature Club did various initiatives around the community. We took care of a wildflower garden, we took care of various other places around the community, but the most important thing to me was when we went to the Everglades. The Everglades is known as the River of Grass. It is one of the largest national parks in the entire US, to the point where you have miles and miles of grass stretching around, and the water can be only a few inches deep, and yet you see some amazing creatures moving through. So we had great conversations, we hiked, everything a college student with substances will do when they're miles away from civilization. I'm not gonna lie about that. But a lot of those conversations changed my life. They changed the way I thought about things. And the one thing that changed my life the most was a quote said by the president of Nature Club, Joe Dubner, who you'll see in the next slide. And he said, "We use the word natural as if it doesn't apply to us as another. In reality, humans are a result of natural processes, and everything we do is another part of nature. If you looked at a big city but sped up, you'd see a flowing mass of metal, concrete, glass, and flesh. It would look like another anthill or a reef. If aliens visited us, they'd see cities as another ecosystem created by another animal. We try to make ourselves seem unnatural, but that's just a silly modern notion that we use to try and make ourselves seem bigger than we are." And I realized that finally when I met my friend Katie and her dog Kyla. Kyla was always considered to be something that was a lost cause. You couldn't communicate with him. He was an adult dog who acted like a puppy. But when I finally brought myself down to the same level as him and bothered to actually listen and understand the way he communicates and dogs communicate, I learned everything else. You can see in this image, you see the dogs, one has their head bowed, the other one's eyes are wild. Maybe to us that seems like a smile, to a dog that's a sign of, please get away from me, you are very big and scary. Whilst I knew the man next to them, they didn't know me, I approached him very gingerly. And I noticed that once I finally stopped to notice the way everything else communicated, I was able to understand people better, myself better, and I was able to understand almost anything that came toward me. And you can even find me now talking to some of the birds at Rock Island that come inside. Yes, they all have names individually, but it's very easy to tell them apart based on their behaviors, because just like humans, every individual animal has its own behavioral practices. As a matter of fact, I actually took this photo, I think yesterday. You can see in a little slide over there, there's a picture of the photo that just came up, and the birds are coming up. Because birds and animals are people too. They're part of our community, which is something that Bermudians talk about all the time. We mentioned that it takes a village to raise a child, and that's one thing I learned the most, especially when I joined Rally and Save. Save is in Fort Lauderdale, but Rally is here. And the one thing that we all spoke on the most was communicating. Communicate with your community. Because when you support each other, that's truly what brings about the best change within all of us. Humans are social creatures. We rely on each other to survive. That's the reason why you're happy when you get a gift from someone, why you're sad when you make them upset. There's a reason why you feel so great when you're surrounded by people, and when therapy comes from the people around us, and it's not something that's so dire and life or death. Because truly, the thing that will save us all is just simply being together and communicating with each other, and talking to each other, and loving each other, because that's the whole thing that got humans to where we are now. We were hunter-gatherer species. We farmed together, we lived together, we loved together. And that's the whole way that we can survive together. As a matter of fact, you can even see us here. Now, yes, we are definitely with politicians over there, but still, us gathering together, us being a community, being together, helped us to be able to provide for ourselves, to be happy, to be proud. And this is an LGBT advocacy organization. Happy Pride Month, by the way. So have you ever heard of the term barrel of laughs? Yeah. So that term is actually thought to come from a protest when slaves would run to a barrel and laugh. So if you ever wonder why that particular black friend may run off and cover their mouth whenever they laugh, it's because it's genetic. Humans, just like any other animals, have the ability to have traits bred in and out of us. In this study, gray foxes were bred to be more kind towards humans. Any fox that was more friendly to a human was allowed to breed. And eventually it was found that this trait was what allowed animals to become domesticated, and how we domesticated animals over millions upon millions of years. Which also means that we can breed traits. This is my mom, my dad, my sister, me. If you notice, my dad and I are not looking at the camera. My mom and my sister are definitely looking at the camera. And if you look at the traits of being able to breathe in and out of a person, that also means that my passion, my drive, my love for life, my creativity, my work ethic, and my love of wearing leather jackets all came from my father. But it also means his anger, his violence, his tendency to use drugs and alcohol as a means of coping with life are things that are all put into me. And there are things that I battle with constantly on every single day. When you notice and look at your bloodline as a way to look back, as your roadmap where you came from, you see where you're going towards. Using that roadmap can then afterwards show you what to steer clear of and show you where you were supposed to go in life. You can use all of these things, communication, community, and understanding the roadmap of your lineage to know where to steer yourself in life. It'll give you the answers to everything you need. Humanity thinks that nature is something that we can use specifically to further ourselves when we are no different from any plant or animal or the air that you breathe. We cannot use nature as a means of trying to better ourselves when we ignore it. The only way that we can improve ourselves in our lives is by opening our hearts, our minds, and understanding, and bring ourselves to the same level as everything, because that's all we are, is another part of the world.
You know, Nekorrah just telling her story. Thank you so much. So, questions? I mean, swap with me.
He gave us all the answers.
We must have some questions here. I know he just gave us the key, you know, to just the live answers, but any more? No, not any questions?
I have questions, I just don't know how to say them.
Come on, Kimmy, you can do it.
Oh.
You can do it.
I was just saying, like, I have questions, I just don't know how to formulate them because it was just so mind-blowing, but thank you. And I was just wondering, what came to mind as you were speaking was biomimicry and how we can integrate the processes of nature back into our lives. Is there anything that comes to mind when I say biomimicry?
So I would say, like, we have a saying in Nature Club, it's go touch some grass. Everyone uses it as a means of saying calm down, but in actual fact, one of the things that I find to be the most grounding is just simply going outside. If you notice throughout the entire night, I've just been standing out there staring off into, like, aimlessly. But it's one thing that I tend to find grounding. When people try to think that if we take things onto ourselves to become something, it's still an idea of using what's outside to bring ourselves within. But rather than trying to focus on isolating to ourselves to make things better, rather than becoming a part of what is already there, I feel like that's what naturally helps to bring everything together, because if you're a solo person on an island, it doesn't matter how grounded you feel, you're alone. If you focus on everything that's around you, if you make friends with the birds at Rock Island, if you take care of the grass that's in your yard, or let things grow and propagate naturally, in the same way Gaelle said, if you let nature teach you what has always been there, you'll find that you're never alone. You'll find that every answer you'll ever need is always there. You just have to be willing to become a part of it, as opposed to bringing it on to bring yourself up. Because if you're trying to be above everything else, you're always going to be by yourself.
Beautiful. Thank you. One more? Follow-up question.
All
right. Follow-up question is, when are you at Rock Island talking to these birds? Because
pretty much
I love it. Okay.
Literally every morning. If it's a Monday to a Saturday, I will be there talking to the birds. How long though depends on if I catch the ferry or the bus to work. I work in town, so I'm here every single morning at being at Rock Island, and specifically the birds and the conversations I have with people are the one thing that keep me sane. But simply just allowing myself to say hi to the birds, understand them, whenever I'm outside, feed them, because you can't feed them inside, follow the rules. That really helps a lot. I'll even say hi to the pigeons when I'm on my way to work, or hi to a cat or this and that, because, we use our manners here. Say good morning, good afternoon, do the same thing to the animals around you. They deserve, a little conversation.
One more question.
I name all of the fish too when I dive. I know of the birds, and I talk to every single little animal I see. I've got a conversation with them. No one can hear it, but it's there. Anyway, so I appreciate that. My question is, in a place like Bermuda, how do we allow people to understand this better connection to nature, and what do we do when we feel different from a society that has built on something very different and attributes that are quite different, and how do we teach people that, you know, this is a better way to connect to people so that we're able to build a bigger community, a stronger community, a more loving community?
So this kind of leads into a philosophy I have, is nature and nurture are both things that tie hand in hand. Where nature is what you see around you, but nature is brought on by people nurturing each other, and therein reinforces each other. Bermuda, I find, is far further along in the rest of the world in cherishing our environment. I can go to Florida and so much as look at a puddle and, oh my gosh, there's more trash there than I see in the landfill. But in Bermuda, we have a far more respect for our environment because we understand just how important it is to us, but that is slowly starting to wane. But I find if we put more pressure into understanding our environment, supporting the Turtle Project, or evolving ecotourism, or literally anything that involves just sheerly understanding the environment and taking out the pride of thinking that humans are above this thing that we are a part of, because nature has a way of humbling us very quickly, we will be able to reinforce that. But it starts from young. You have to raise up children in that way, or adults in that way, and show everyone that, hey, this is not something that's going to make you lesser. It's just something that's going to help improve the lives of every single person around you.
We have one more. Woo!
Yeah, so thank you very much for that very powerful presentation. My question and really my interest from your presentation is on behavior. You seem to suggest that our traits, our behavioral traits are inherited, but we've been taught that how we behave is a function of the environment. So how much do you believe that, you know, a lot of who we are is inherited? So for instance, if you had a twin brother, if you discovered you had a twin brother today, would you describe that twin brother as having identical behavioral traits as you, even if, for instance, they grew up in another totally different environment from where you grew up?
Well, I'd say straight out of the womb, absolutely, you probably have the exact same behavioral things, but even identical twins have slight deviations in their DNA. The whole reason that evolution happens in the first place is because things develop differences in their DNA based on mutations or environmental factors that allow them to change and suit their environments better. A DNA does show you how to code your brain, but it's on a very psychological, biological, emotional level. So whilst you may have things deep within you, they will eventually change because the environment that you grew up in is far different from the ones that your parents started as. Your parents, making you, your DNA that comes from your parents just shows your body a baseline where to start. And things will come up over time. Like I wasn't always fighting a battle with drugs because I didn't have that environment around me. And I'm just now finding that out because of the fact that now I'm in a similar situation as my father. But when you combine both of them, it's not a black and white situation. Nothing in life is black and white, and nothing in nature is black and white. There's always a but or an except. It'll start off in one direction, but because of the fact the way nature is constantly growing, changing, evolving, it's a bit of both, honestly.
Well said.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Gabe. Wow, that was amazing. Thank you so much. We have one more presenter, so don't go just yet, because up next we have Gabe Peyton, who's going to so many talents as well, many. But today he's going to be talking about something different. His presentation is Making Memories. I'm going to let him tell you all about it.
Can I do this thing? I don't like to hold the mic. It's a thing for me. Thanks. I'll grip it too. You know what I mean? Is this tall for me, Alba? We have no idea. Okay. This is perfect. Yeah? Yeah, I think so. Hit it, John! Hi, my name is Gabe, and today we're going to talk about making memories. I don't know if I'm an expert on this, but I do think about this probably more than I should. So I'll start by asking myself a question. Why do I like making memories? Well, because it's fun, and I am a fun guy. That landed nice. I got more. So call me a cynic, or I don't know, a synonym for that word. But I find that like as we get older, we don't really play as much in life. I think that making memories is a great way to play. And I think that, I'm losing my train of thought here. Calling myself out. Give me a clap, Amy. Nice, thank you. I am losing, oh man. You might be out here saying, hey Gabe, why do I want to be making memories for other people? Ain't nobody out here making memories for me. Fair point. I don't know about you guys, but I'm not always waking up on the right side of the bed. So, and I don't know what other people are struggling with. And I find that making memories is a good way to help people know that they matter. This is one of my favorite memories of recent times. I am a new dad. Y'all might have seen my daughter, she's awesome. But I have a hard time staying in shape. And my buddy was like, hey, why don't you wake up every day and just do like 5 squats? And I never did, until one day he sent me a video of him doing it himself. And then we were off, sending each other videos of us doing squats and push-ups every single day. Until like, I don't know, like months and months passed. And then we were like doing all right. And just this little act helped me feel good about myself. It was one of my favorite memories. And also we like did the squats and thongs. We don't have a picture of that, but we do have a picture of this. This nice bushy thing. I don't want to sit here and talk about all the great memories I've made, toot my own horn, but like making this, my friend's garden look amazing.